Well, I think we'll start with a sound effect. Sounds good, right? This presentation is going to go so well. Thank you for having me. I am delighted to be here to talk to you a little bit about what Coca-Cola is doing around the world with our marketing. And it's truly a privilege to be in a market that has been so good to us and that we have so much vested interest in and ambition for. So I'm looking forward to spending the next few days here with our local team and learning and sharing more and sharing some of the best practices that are in place here. You know, I found that's not good. Better? I found a quote about a year or so ago from a woman named Nilofer Merchant. She's a consultant and a marketing practitioner. And she said, today's successful leader has to do two things, right? They have to manage the present and at the same time invent the future. And on its surface, that sounds, realistic. That sounds like something you should do until you think about for a second what the present looks like, right? The present is, huge, ever-changing, dynamic, hard to get your arms around, thorny, right? You're trying to get your arms around this thing called the present, and all the while you're doing that, as a leader, you're supposed to be thinking about where this is going in the future. This is a really difficult challenge and hurdle for us. Why? Well, if we think about marketing, there's more content in the world now than we can even begin to fathom. Last year, on its 7th anniversary, YouTube announced that it was uploading 72 hours of content every minute of every day. 72 hours every minute of every day on YouTube. All right, that's just one place. So think about the volumes of content that are out there. What happens to that content? Well, it scales. It scales around the world instantaneously. For a company like ours in 207 countries, that's a good thing. We call that productivity. We like scale. It also spreads. It spreads to the furthest endpoint. Everything communicates, right? We believe that everything is a consumer touch point and sends and says a message about our company and about our brands. So what's changed with this? Volumes of content, huge global spread, going scale, and then going through these endpoints and spreading. Well, all of this now happens in real time. There is no such thing as putting the toothpaste back in the tube anymore, right? Once it's out there, right? There's no way to recapture and reclaim that message. So it happens in real time. And here's the piece that as marketers really hurts our feelings. Everything I just mentioned will happen every single day, whether we choose to get out of bed or not, right? That hurts our feelings, right? So what does this look like? Well, for us at Coca-Cola, our target, teens and young adults, not only are they very comfortable in an environment that looks like this, they know differently. They know of no other time when it looked any other way than it looks right now. As Brad mentioned, I have a 10-year-old, and she is currently lobbying us hard for a mobile phone. And just a couple weekends ago, she said to me as she was making her plea, well, Mommy, how old were you when you got a mobile phone? And I said, 27. And she said, I am not waiting until I am 27, right? They know no other time. They know that there was no other time other than this environment. This is a picture from some focus groups one of our ad agencies did in Italy, and you can see this picture was drawn by one of the focus group respondents. What do they want, right? That's them on a stage, and they want bright lights, they want fame, they want money, they don't even know what they want. And here's that person's description. I want a life in which I am the protagonist. I do not want a boring life. And in these same groups, the respondents will say to us, when I put content into my social network, I have a built-in expectation of what that content will get in terms of likes, shares, comments. And if my content does not achieve what I think my going-in ambition is, they say this, I feel like a personal failure. Right? We cannot compute this. This doesn't make sense to us, right? A personal failure? Because your picture didn't get enough likes? Yes, this is how important social networks are. So when people say to me, Wendy, I'm not sure that there's a real role for brands in social networks, this is Exhibit A. If we give useful, interesting, compelling, share-worthy content to our consumers, we are in fact giving them the currency by which they rate their lives. That's how important this is, and this is the role that brands and companies can play. So given this context, what is a brand and a company to do? Well, at Coca-Cola, about a couple of years ago, our global integrated marketing community developed our liquid and linked communication strategy. Liquid and linked. Why liquid and linked? Well, liquid because we want the content and the conversation of our brands to spread as far as possible, to go as far and wide as possible. As I said, that scale and that spread is a good thing for us. But in so doing, we want to ensure that all of that spread and all of that scale stays deeply anchored to our brand strategy. Because the goal is not more, the goal is more good, right? The goal is more on strategy. And so while those two somewhat pull against each other, when you say uncontrollable and uncontainable and liquid, but deeply linked, it is by design that we have those that way. Liquid and linked. So there are three focus areas to liquid and linked. We start with stories. Stories is a big word for us, and we use it to mean all of our content, brand experiences, brand conversations. Typically, the intersection of these three. What do we want to do with these stories? Well, we want them to spread. We want to take advantage of that in owned, earned, shared, and paid media. Owned media. For a company like ours, we have 12 million pieces of equipment around the world. We have a fleet that is larger than FedEx and UPS combined, right? If you think about these owned assets, they are not depreciating assets. We must reimagine them as hard-working media. All of us must start with what we own and think about the canvas that they provide us for storytelling for our brands, because you already own them, right? What are the stories that our equipment, our vehicles, our websites, our employees, our packages, 1.8 billion daily servings of our beverages, what are the stories that the packages can tell? These vehicles we already own. So we start with owned, then we move to earned, social, blogs, earned media. Then we go to shared for a company like ours, a packaged goods company. The point of realization for our brand and our products often happens in environments we don't control, in a restaurant, in a convenience store, in a bodega, in a hypermarket. So we must partner with our customers to bring the stories of our brands to life, because if we do all of this work to move consumers through the funnel and they cross the threshold of a store and they grab a blue package, I am not happy, right? It is all for nothing. So we must partner all the way to the shelf, all the way to the point of realization so that the stories of our brands come to life. And then and only then do we think about paid. Owned, earned, shared, and paid. In that order, with social at the heart. Social by itself is not a silver bullet, but social will make everything you do better. So stories that spread to do what? Well, create value. As marketers, we're paid to create value. That's what our jobs are. At Coca-Cola, our enduring currency of success would be brand love and brand value. It's how we've measured our success over time. But for a company our size, it is no longer enough simply to create value for ourselves. It is no longer acceptable to create value for yourself, but not a shared value. And so when we think about value creation, we say, yes, we want to create value for ourselves, but we also must create value for our partners, within our supply chain, within the communities in which we operate, and quite frankly, for the world. A shared value that transcends that of our own company. I think it's important to comment about our constituencies as we're thinking about this, because our constituencies have broadened. Historically, at Coca-Cola, we would say we had 5 value-creating constituencies. We distinguish between a consumer and a shopper, those who consume our beverages, those who shop for our beverages, our customers, so our partners, as I just mentioned, markets, restaurants, our bottlers, we're a franchise system, and then finally our employees. We'd say we have 5 value-creating targets. But now, as marketers, we must think about this tertiary ring of value influencers. They don't always create a lot of value. They certainly influence value. Right? This can be governments, NGOs, various partners that we have to think about how we have the right message at the right time to the right constituents. So a much broader spectrum of constituents now for our messages and for our marketing. I'm going to share with you today 8 learnings that we've had so far on this journey. And it is a journey. We are not complete. We don't do it perfectly every time. We are learning. And the best way to learn is to share. And that's why we're here today, so that we can learn from other companies and other brands doing this well. But I will share with you what we have learned so far. The number one thing I would say in this journey is that at every juncture, in every way, in everything we are doing, we must be shareworthy. Everything you do now in a socially networked world must have the ability and the prospects of being shared further than your initial audience. I'm going to show you a piece of film now from Latin America called Security Cameras that is certainly shareworthy. Take a look. A lovely piece of film now that has traveled around the world. If you think about the construct of Liquid and Link, right on brand strategy, about finding and evidencing happiness in the world. A big cultural point of view is where Coke operates best. And if you look at, this was a grab I did on Sunday night, this is just one of the places in aggregate and across languages that it's been translated, well over 10 million views now on that piece of content. Deeply shareworthy, something people want to pass along and share. It has a lovely lens and perspective on the world. And of course, where most people are finding this is YouTube. I think these numbers are pretty startling when you think in terms of media now. Monthly active users for Facebook, over 1 billion monthly active users, 50% of their base visiting every single day. A significant number. Important to say, though, that you've got others there. That's Weibo at 368 million. Obviously, Twitter and LinkedIn. And then the smallest logo there, the social network VK out of Russia, if you're not familiar with it. But so we've got a combination of some very big players. Obviously, if we look around the world in almost every market, Facebook, YouTube, and Google are always in the top 5 for us in virtually every market that we operate in. And then you do have some super regionals that play a role too. Of course, so the key for us in social networking is certainly about the audience that we can amass. We're very fortunate to have the largest brand Facebook page on Facebook, 59 million, 59.6 million, just looked last night. We grow by about 1 million fans roughly every 15 or 20 days, a really significant growth. And 59 million, not a small number, not one we take for granted, one we're very, very honored and appreciative of, and we take a fans first approach for that community. But in a business of 1.8 billion daily servings, the full universe of Facebook, of course, is much more interesting to us. And here's the interesting fact. Our 59 million fans are just over one friend or fan away from the full universe. So back to the construct of being shareworthy. If we give useful, interesting, compelling content to our fans, which is an initial audience we can reach, they can reach an audience much larger, much greater than the audience we can reach, an ultimate audience, which is the core of what all of us must do today. This is why being shareworthy is so important. And so what we must do is the second learning we've had. Embrace our new sales force. Who are our new sales force? These guys, right? And this is a really important point for all of us to consider. These are the hand raisers. These are the people who want to carry the messages of your brand. Being a part of a social network and a social community is not forced, right? You can leave or go as you want. And by the way, when we misstep on Facebook, when we oversell or over-leverage a message, when we don't have a fans-first approach, our disconnects go up 4x. You have a built-in measurement of when you do it right and wrong. But these are the hand raisers, and they want to carry your messages forward. And as I just showed you, if you do it well, you can use that initial audience to reach a far greater audience than you could by yourself. I'm going to show you a quick 30-second clip of a piece of content that one of our fans put out on her YouTube channel. Her name is Jess Paul. Her handle's Cruise Love. A piece of content we found. She never sent it to us. Take a look at this 30-second clip.
Brendan, are you in there?
So that's it. I mean, I'm the head of marketing communications for the company. I should be made nervous by this, right? I mean, I had nothing to do with this. That's a great story. It's a great story. Do you think we got a letter, an email, a text, anything for permission to use the world's most valuable brand, estimated $76 billion worth of value? Think Jess put in a little call, anything? Think? No. Anyone see the world's most valuable music brand over her right shoulder, Abbey Road? I could not afford the rights on this spot, right? If you don't think the world has changed, this is Exhibit A. The most nervous people in your building, the attorneys, right? Because the marketers are saying, give it away, let everyone play with the IP, it's fine, right? And the attorneys are going, oh my God. What happened with Jess Paul? We found this piece of content, and we contacted her, and we said, Jess, I mean, this is pretty cool storytelling. You're using our song. You've made a story. It's lovely. It's shareworthy. It's interesting. We know our fans would love it. Go back to the picture from the focus group. What did Jess want? She had 20,000 followers on her YouTube channel. We have 59 million fans on Facebook. What did Jess want? The bright lights and the scale that a Coca-Cola could give her, right? And that is how you work with consumer-generated content and how you fuel and find these stories that will spread further. So she is part of our sales force, yes. And this goes to the third learning, right? Listening and engaging with this audience. I hear a lot of brands talking about right now, oh, we're listening, and then they're finished, right? We listened. Well, listening isn't finished unless you engage. That's the point of listening. At Coca-Cola, we are developing and implementing a number of consumer listening and engagement hubs around the world to get into the conversation of our brands. There are up to 15,000 tweets with brand Coca-Cola every single day. There's a huge conversation going on our brands. If you ask me to estimate, I would tell you that only 10 to 15% of the dialogue and conversation and content of our brands comes from us. The remainder comes from the world at large. We want to be part of that conversation on our brands. And by the way, listening and engagement hubs are the new measurement tool too, because the data that comes off those provides an instantaneous measurement and feedback loop that we can take and put back at the front of our system to provide benchmarks and measurement for the next program. And so that's an important role that these hubs play. And when we listen, it looks really good. This is an example from Great Britain, where we're doing some social listening on Twitter. You can see this man named Alpine Jojo put out a tweet, "Stupid cold is making me feel yuck. Need to kill it with brandy stat." Our team is listening, and so they respond, "Hey, Alpine Jojo, if the brandy doesn't help cure the cold, would you care for a complimentary vitamin water delivery?" Right? What does Alpine Jojo say? Well, he is British. "How lovely of you. Yes, please, I love that stuff. What happens next?" The money shot, right? We get him a vitamin water. He takes a picture of himself drinking it and does what? Shares it. It's not about Alpine Jojo. It's about who Alpine Jojo can reach, right? That initial audience that reaches an ultimate audience far greater than we can reach by ourselves. Now, I'm always quick to say, this is not the path to 1.8 billion daily servings, right? I'm not suggesting that we do that, but when a big company and a big brand can look very small, can pivot and get one beverage to one person, that is what is Shareworthy. No one believes you can do it, and when you do it, it's simply amazing, and it gets talked about and shared. This is what we can do when we listen and engage. The next principle, number 4, I want to talk about is our innovation principle. This is what we're using in our innovation team and fueling throughout marketing. This idea of thinking big, starting small, and then scaling fast. Right? We're the Coca-Cola Company. We're in 207 countries. We should think massively. Right? We should have massive expectations for the value we can create for ourselves, for our communities, for our world. Absolutely. But we must start small. We want to place tons of little bets and learn. Because what you want to do is test, fail, learn, then scale. Right? That's what you've got to do. Because at a company our size, and many of the companies represented in the room today, the big companies, we are built for scale. And if we do not have a learning loop in there, if we do not reposition failure as a positive inside corporations, not a negative, we will do this. We will scale the wrong thing perfectly. I promise you. We're built for scale. And so we have to have that learning loop. We have to allow ourselves to fail and learn. Our CEO, Muhtar Kent, has a wonderful saying. He says, it's okay to fail once. It's not okay to fail twice at the same thing. Right? It's a very simple principle. Fail, learn, and then improve, and then scale. An example that we've done this is with Spotify. You may be familiar with it, a global music company that we started partnering with about 2 years ago. What we find when we do these things and when we partner with small companies, especially startups, is we look first and foremost for shared values. If we have shared values and shared ambition, there is no limit to what we can do together. And Spotify very much wanted to grow globally. At the time, they were in just a handful of markets, and they wanted to grow globally. And what we saw in music being the #1 passion point for teens, an opportunity to grow with them. That relationship took its genesis, and most recently, at the end of last year, we actually announced an equity position that we took in Spotify. That's what a relationship can build to over time. And by the way, it's not equity for equity's sake. It's equity because we built the principles of a shared relationship, generated shared value, and it then was the natural next right thing to do. This is a quote from their CEO, Daniel Ek. You can see that his belief for his company is right in line with our belief. And when we have those shared values, again, there's no limit to what we can do. I'm going to show you a video now from our team in Singapore who did a fantastic job of thinking big. And then we'll talk about, this video is a little longer. You're going to see what they did on the front end and then some of the results on the back end, and we'll talk about the learnings after that.
Today in New York is ABC 7 News This Morning.
Is World News Now.
NBC4's Today in LA.
Well, now we bring you the Coca-Cola vending machine with the words "Hug Me" written across it. And if you do just that, you get a free Coke.
What?
Yeah, Hug Me. There's only one right now. It's in Singapore, but the company plans to make more of them.
The story from the Huffington Post will make you smile. A Coca-Cola vending machine in Singapore says, "Hug me." People are, and their reward for spreading some cheer, hug me, a free can of Coke.
And trending this morning, a hug for a Coke. Interesting idea. Macaulay Medina joins us in the studio now at Vision Plus with all the details. Good morning.
Don't we all love a hug now and then?
Yes,
right?
yes. I'll
take a look at what it says. They have a hug, and if you give a hug, it'll give you a Coke. Take a look at the video going viral right now on YouTube. The machine is at the National University of Singapore, and students there have taken a liking to the friendly vending machine, and especially to what it spits out after a nice big bear hug. That's right, a free Coke. No money is required whatsoever. Just a nice hug.
That's smart.
I think it's lovely.
I do too. I like hug soft.
And finally, have you hugged a Coke machine today? A hug can get you a free can of Coke in Singapore. The Hug Me machine is part of Coke's Open Happiness campaign.
Yeah, shoot. I'll hug a machine all day long for a free Coke. Done more for less.
Anything? How about a Coca-Cola for me? Where is it? Come on.
I have nothing to give. Here.
So this one has so many lessons on it. First and foremost, it's easy for me to be up here and show you the perfect ones. There's a lot back on the shelf that didn't get 112 million views in 7 days. And that's the principle. We have to learn, right? We have to learn what works. And you share those learnings and you get to a place that does work. Obviously at 112 million views, redefining what viral can mean in just 7 days with this video. But let's talk about some of those principles of Liquid and Linked. Number one, right on brand strategy. This experience done during exam time frame at the University of Singapore. A stressful, tough, oppressive time, right? All you want? A moment of happiness, just a little moment of uplift, right? Perfectly on brand strategy. Number two, the hero of the spot. Our owned media, right? Our machine is the hero of the spot. Wonderful. What happens? An experience had by a few, and then what do? They get their phones out and they start sharing it. Right? So the young teens, young adults here, sharing the content, it starts spreading, fueling a conversation. So think about that construct of stories. An experience had by a few that creates content that then fuels a brand conversation. Dead on our plan that starts with our owned media and then starts spreading and goes around the world. Now, you can see on this video, we show the US media response. We had no idea in the US that this was going on. This was the Singapore team doing exactly what the Singapore marketing team should do. And creating an experience, but it went viral, and we start getting calls talking about that immediate scale in the US, and we called the Singapore team and said, what are you doing? You know, the news are calling us, right? I mean, that's how fast things spread now. Think about the corporate gesture. Think about the brand gesture of TV anchors hugging one another, right? What does that say about, again, right back on the brand strategy? Just a moment of happiness. Right on brand strategy. And you may push and say, well, okay, Wendy, but these morning and evening news, teens and young adults aren't watching those. Right. Who is? Back to the constituent map. Who's watching them? Moms who buy our products? Investors, analysts who rate our company, right? Getting that content and expanding it to the full constituency in the right way. It's a great example. Next lesson I would share, or learning I would share, is this notion of speed trumping perfection. As marketers, as an industry, we have built our careers in many cases over putting out very perfect products, right? I call us a lot of times rock polishers. We polish it, we put as much energy and effort into the last 5% as we do into the first 95%. That's what we've done. We're perfectionists, admit it, right? But real-time marketing requires speed. You guys know this guy, right? Here's what hangs in the walls of Facebook. Done is better than perfect. And this mantra you will find again and again in Silicon Valley as corporations We must re-educate ourselves and move with the speed of the market and understand. And I'm not suggesting that we go out without our contracts and licenses and that sort of thing, but we must be comfortable moving much more quickly. Because why? Because consumers expect us to publicly iterate now. They are very comfortable with brands and companies publicly iterating, and so must we be. It makes us more open. It makes us more transparent. We're using a term in our digital team now. The term is flawsome, being awesome with our flaws. Flawsome. Consumers don't want a relationship with a corporate monolith. They want a relationship with the brand that they hold in their hand every day that gives them just a moment of happiness. A very transparent, human relationship. Done is better than perfect. Speed trumps perfection. The next learning I would share is this idea again in our innovation space. We must disrupt ourselves or risk being disrupted. It is the speed of the market that now requires us to think about what will disrupt us and jumping into exactly what that will be. Last year, at the end of last year, we relaunched our company brand page. Company websites and brand pages are just sort of these lifeless nets that float out in the ocean, just maybe catching whatever swims into them. And that wasn't enough for us. We wanted to be a publisher. We wanted to be part of the conversation. We wanted to get front foot on this. And so we repositioned our corporate website to Coca-Cola Journey. It is now a brand publishing tool. We are publishing constantly off this. And by the way, if you're going to be a brand publisher, you better have an unbiased opinion. In the very beginning, when we launched this is a fairly well-known blogger in the US, put out a position that he thought our strategy was flawed, that he thought Coca-Cola Journey, which is what we have positioned our homepage to be, was not going to be a winning strategy or successful strategy. We put his story and we put it front and center on our page. Because if you're in brand publishing, you better be comfortable with the debate, comfortable with a range of perspectives if you're really going to legitimately be in brand publishing. Disrupt or be disrupted. The seventh learning I would share with you is this relentless pursuit we have at the company. If you're going to be around innovation, if you're going to define the next iteration of marketing, you simply cannot stand still. It will not work. What got us here will not get us there. We are very clear on this. So you simply cannot accept the status quo. When we're doing these programs, a lot of times we get the answer no. No, we can't do that. No is the most convenient answer in the world to me. A yes often is so much harder to say. But if you want to redefine marketing and you want to be at the front of that, and you want to create value for your company, and for us, if you want to double the size of your business in 10 years, you simply cannot accept the no. You must believe that a no is just a yes waiting to happen. My boss isn't so great on that. But I believe a no is just a yes waiting to happen. He's like, no. I'm like, yes, right? We have to reimagine that no. We cannot accept the status quo because that won't get to us redefining marketing. I'm going to show you a final film here of a project we did last year with Google. Perhaps the most prized asset at the Coca-Cola Company, the most prized piece of content is our Coca-Cola Hilltop ad from 1971. It is now 42 years old, if you can believe that. But perhaps the most historic and well-known piece of content Coca-Cola has ever put out. And Google approached us about using Hilltop for an initiative and a program they want. The easy answer would have been no. It's too precious, it's too hallowed, we don't mess with our most precious. But we resisted that temptation and we said yes, and take a look at the film. Oops.
Teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. I like to ride the world of Coke.
In Project Rebrief, we've reimagined Coca-Cola's classic Hilltop commercial for a modern audience in the digital age. In the spirit of the original ad, it allows users to connect with strangers by sending a Coke around the globe to an unsuspecting recipient, making the world feel just a little bit smaller. The ad can be experienced on mobile phone apps in Google's AdMob network across iOS and Android devices. Made possible through AdMob-rich media ads, coupled with custom-designed vending machines, viewers can truly buy the world of Coke with a few taps on their mobile phones. A viewer can decide where to send a Coke by selecting one of many machines located around the world, from New York City to Cape Town to Buenos Aires. They can then add a custom text message to personalize their Coke delivery. Google Translate converts these messages on the fly, breaking down the language barrier across countries. A dynamic video with Google Maps, Street View, and composite motion graphics shows the Coke's journey from the viewer's current location to the vending machine across the globe. Users can then wait for confirmation of their Coke's delivery or enter an email address to be notified later. Once the Coke is delivered, recipients are not only treated to the generosity of a stranger thousands of miles away, but they can also say thanks by sending a message of their own back to the user. That message is then delivered to the user's inbox, where they can read the note and view a video clip of the recipient's surprised reaction upon getting a free Coke. A gallery showcases some of our favorite shareable exchanges between people around the world connecting over a can of Coke.
Thank you, that's the best Coke I've ever had.
Today's technology allows us to make good on a promise Coca-Cola made over 40 years ago, and lets users buy the world of Coke from the palm of their hand.
That actually won the Cannes Grand Prix in mobile last June, and we're very fortunate. This year we will be, as a company, awarded the Creative Marketer of the Year award at Cannes for 2013, the first time in the company's history of 60 years. Which leads me to the final point. If all of this is possible, if we're going to market in real time, if we're going to be share-worthy, if we're going to think big and start small and scale fast, if we're not going to accept the status quo, if we're going to disrupt ourselves instead of being disrupted, what is necessary at a behavioral level is that we play well together. These campaigns are more complicated than ever before. In 2012, we activated our Olympic partnership in over 108 markets around the world. I will tell you, no fewer than 10,000 people touched that campaign between our own marketers, our agencies, and our partners who helped bring it to life. 10,000 people. If you can't play well, there simply isn't a seat at the table anymore for you. We want to work with people who can put our brand and our company's ambition first and know that their success will follow if we do so. So we're looking for people to play well with us, and it's absolutely critical and at the heart of how we will succeed as a company and as a brand. So that's a quick canter through Liquid and Linked. It's about stories, brand content, brand experiences, brand conversations coming together, spreading through owned, earned, shared, and paid media with social at the heart, all to create value. Yes, certainly a value for us in terms of brand love and brand value, but also a value that transcends just our own company, a value for our partners, the communities in which we operate, and certainly for the world. If I had to summarize this into one chart, one way to think about Liquid and Linked, I would tell you that we're moving from a time of placement of messages, a highly coordinated, highly controlled time, right, where we created content and we put it out exactly where we wanted it, how we wanted it. Right? Remember you used to unravel your media flow charts and look at them 10 years ago, and you'd ravel them up, and we had quarterly media meetings. Quarterly media meetings. I mean, we're looking at our media plans every minute of every day now, right? Highly coordinated, highly controlled time, placement of messages, that's gone. We're moving now to a time of movement of stories, right? And it takes incredibly different capabilities, focuses, strategies, objectives, tactics to succeed in a time of movement of stories. But we can do it. We are doing it. It's a journey. We will all continue to get better at it if we share together. Because at Coca-Cola, increasingly around the world, we're very aware that everyone is carrying one of these in their right hand. And our objective, our mission, our goal is to make sure they're carrying one of these in their left hand. Thank you very much.